Okay, hi guys, Claudia Boleyn here. There's been so many videos I wanted to make, like that I was gonna make, but nothing seems important. Like, usually I'd think, oh, I'm gonna make like a New Year video, all that stuff. And it's like, I can't do that. I can't process any of that stuff. It feels unimportant and narcissistic, and it just feels like guilt. I wanted to be able to say Happy New Year, right? Like, I hope it's a peaceful New Year for everyone. The genocide in Gaza is still unfolding. This started in October, and when I say this started in October, I mean that this phase started in October. It's been 70 years of occupation for the Palestinian people. But it was like that was the most recent point of what happened. That was early October. We are in January, and the people of Palestine are still being bombed and ethnically cleansed. And it's got so bad, looking back at my old videos, even, where we are sitting here, like, debating whether or not Israel. Oh, they couldn't have bombed a hospital. They would never bomb a hospital. And then flash forward to now. Sorry if I get upset in the video. Fast forward to now, where they're openly saying the ambassador Israel's ambassador to the UK was on LBC last night and claimed that every school, every mosque, and every second home was a legitimate target because they claim there is a massive terror city under Gaza, and therefore the only way they can get to this terror city is to destroy those places. They have made those places targets. And to think that we were so early on being gaslit with people saying, oh no, that bomb could not possibly have been an Israeli bomb. They wouldn't do that. Well, now they are. Now they're openly doing it. Like, they're proudly doing it. And suddenly all the people that were like, oh, this is a terrible humanitarian crime. Like, this is awful. Nothing. We are having to argue with grown adults about the rights of children to exist. The innocence of a child is being debated now. We're at that point where even the children are so dehumanized right now that we're having to have arguments with other adult human beings about why slaughtering them is wrong and why they don't deserve this. I have seen so many cartoons that are reminiscent of cartoons that were around in the 30s and 20s in Germany, the heavy anti-Semitism in Germany. I'm not just linking that for effect, like to try and cause offence. It's because that is what I studied. So that's the era in history that I like really studied and I read a lot about, and I knew a lot about that sort of propaganda. So that's why I'm referencing it. I am seeing now this attempt, and it's kind of being successful on so many people. They started with the men, right? So they started here well before. We've got a lot of Islamophobia here, and it's the idea that these foreign men, these brown men, these Arab men are dangerous. And that in itself is just awful. Like, when people see people fleeing from war or persecution, they'll often say, well, I wish it wasn't a man, I wish it was a woman or a child, right? It's like those men are discounted. And even buying into that warped framework, you think you can get through to someone, being like, oh, but the women and the children. But no, the women too. And now the children as well. Like, there is people I thought were arguing in good faith are now revealing themselves, and they are revealing themselves now because Israel has gone so far and they've got so much support that I think they feel pretty unstoppable right now. They're now revealing themselves. The mask they'd worn all along, the projections that they put onto people like me, they are in fact the ones that are willing to make excuses for the deaths of innocent people. I don't know about you, all I can do is speak from my whole heart and know that God knows my heart. I don't want a single innocent person to suffer. Not one, no matter where they are. No innocent person should suffer. And the people that have been accusing people who support the rights of the Palestinians of not valuing life are now openly taking the masks off and saying, well, but the Palestinians aren't human. They started with, all these racist tropes that have gone so far now have got to a point, it's like dominoes falling down. That now we're arguing for the rights of children because they're saying now that even the children, oh, they'll grow up to be terrorists. I saw this this tweet, and it's just an example. I'm not going to put anything awful on your screen because you will already have seen it. I've seen some of the worst things I've ever seen in my life over these past months, and it keeps on coming. And to see children who have had their limbs amputated without anaesthetic, or, you know, there's very few painkillers and there's not enough resources. Children are starving to death, by the way. They are starving to death and they are freezing to death. It's a man-made humanitarian catastrophe. To see them without their limbs, to see them burned and crying in a hospital where it's not even safe for them, and to be able to do nothing as you look into the faces of these tiny children is something I will never be able to... I'll never be able to get past it in my head. It feels wrong to say it's nightmarish for us because we are safe. But what I mean when I say nightmarish is it's one of those things where you want so desperately to be able to go to those children and to stand in front of those children and to say, you're not going to be hurt. You're not going to be slaughtered. You're not going to have your limbs torn off. It's going to be all right. And we can't do anything to... Nothing we do. It feels like all the marches. Our media is more interested in portraying them as hate marches and cheering on the genocide. And every day more children, like these innocent little faces with lost limbs and crying for their families, and people holding like the bundles of their dead children. So I'm not going to show you anything like horrific on here because you will have seen it. But I just want to like draw your attention to something I do on the channel, as you know, in the Meghan and Harry situation, in abuse situations, in romantic relationships, in family relationships, in society. Like, it's the same playbook, right? It's always the same abuse playbook. It's always Darvo. It's always, if you understand one of the systems, you can understand all of those systems, and you get very good at it. You get very, very good at identifying it in all places, and you become a person that just sees it. And if you can see it on any of those instances, you can see that Israel is doing it right now. The government of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, is doing it right now. It is an instance of abuse, smearing, Darvo. All the while, there is a huge power imbalance. Right? Even the fact it's being called a war still. Who is the war against, exactly? Because they say, oh, it's a war against Hamas, they've got to get Hamas. So how many of the people dead, who the last I checked was about 22,000, and that's only the people that they can even find. Like, people don't seem to understand that the hospital system has collapsed. So there's people who are, like, the dead are they're having to be buried really quickly. There's too many dead. People are dying in the hospital, people are dying of starvation and of illness, right? Like, people are buried under the rubble still. There are children who will have died and will be, as we speak, dying underneath the rubble, and nobody will be able to reach them. And that's the reality of what's happening to the children there, because they are, and all the people, but especially they can't even be rescued, right? We don't even know how they died, if they are conscious or surrounded by dead family members, or the injuries they've had, because they can't get to them. So that's only the number that we know about. There's going to be so many more. But Israel say, oh, it's against Hamas. So either they are the most useless army in the world who should not have any weapons, basically, because if your war is against Hamas and you're killing that many civilians and that many children, then you're either incompetent or you're committing ethnic cleansing and it's intentional and you know what you're doing. Quite clearly, there's no other explanation now. And everyone's like, I don't know what's happened to people that it's a radical statement. We're coming into 2024, and it is a radical and controversial statement to say that the slaughter of these people and the slaughter of these children is a humanitarian catastrophe, man-made, and Israel are choosing to do it. Because they're not just killing Hamas, are they? And what world are we living in? It doesn't even make sense anyway, because what do you do in a situation where someone's done something terrible? You don't go to where they live and their street and bomb the place and bomb them out. You've got Israeli politicians openly now saying that the reason for the siege is because they're trying to pressure Hamas, right? They are trying to make the people break. And then you've got Netanyahu saying that he wants forced migration. He's saying it himself. All these things that we've said all this time. That this is about moving the people out of Gaza, people who are already refugees. This is about moving them off the land for the ultimate land grab, right? That's what this is. This has never been a proportionate response, and it's never been, this is not defence. This is clearing those people off the land, whether that means by killing them, making them so afraid that they flee. It's destroying their houses, their religious buildings. They are wiping all these ancient, beautiful buildings off the land. Buildings that are so sacred to three of the huge faiths, right? So, like, it's a holy place for Christians, for Muslims, and for Jewish people, right? And they are collapsing all these signs of Palestinian culture. That is ethnic cleansing, because what they're trying to do is act like the Palestinians don't have a history in that place. Why would you take down those? There's no reason. And I feel mad even saying this. Benjamin Netanyahu has openly said, they are openly telling us that they intend to cleanse the land. It's a forced migration. What do they sound like, and who do they sound like in history? Right? Either you get out, they're basically saying, we're going to make it difficult, you're second-class citizens, right? We're going to put you in a ghetto, you're going to go, right? And if you don't go, you're going to die. So it's up to you, really, but whatever happens, you're not on the land, we don't want you here. Who does that sound like exactly to you? But this is an example of a tweet I just want to bring up, because this is the sort of thing that this is where we're at now. Right, okay, so this is from Shoshana Keats Jaskal. Just saw a horrible story related by a soldier back from Gaza. 3 kids on bikes approached soldiers in tanks. The soldiers told them not to be there, but they didn't leave until the soldiers shot in the air. A little while later, terrorists came and shot an RPG at the tank, killing 2 soldiers. The kids were acting as spotters for Hamas, telling them where the soldiers were. Because the Israelis cared about the children's lives and didn't shoot them, they were killed by the terrorists, who sent kids into a war zone. This is who we are fighting. It really doesn't take a genius to just go through this like we do all other propaganda here, and see exactly what this means. This is basically criminalising the children. So first of all, the hero in your story is frightening 3 kids on bikes on their own land, right? And you've gone there with your tank and you are shooting to make them run away. Children, right? They are then connecting these children to Hamas, right? The children are spotters for Hamas, they're saying. And they're also saying that, you know, it is because the Israelis are so kind to the children and they wouldn't hurt the children that they died. So the implication here is obviously that, oh, well, it's a necessary sacrifice. We would have to kill those children because otherwise our soldiers would die. It's not rocket science. This is who we are fighting. And it's very obvious with the children, because sometimes they say, oh, you know, we're doing this for the Palestinian people because they're being used as human shields. And yet they show no empathy. This is how you know. In any abuse situation, this is how you know that they are lying. Because if that was the case, it wouldn't make sense anyway, but if that was the case, their concern would be helping the Palestinian people. If they were these wonderful benefactors who were trying to save these people, which is rubbish, they would be doing all they could to protect those kids. They would be not putting out stories and images where, oh, well, it's a way up really, isn't it? Because on the one hand, Hamas, but if we got to do that, we have to get rid of them, right? And that means we got to kill children. You know, that wouldn't be the argument. The argument would be full empathy for the children. It would be the children are being used. We have to help the children. How can we help the children? That's not the framing here. The framing is essentially that the 3 children that were spared by Israel, their kindness of shooting into the air on their own land when they were on bikes, means that they were killed by Hamas. So it's us or them, us or the 3 little kids on the bikes, is what the story is telling us. And we keep hearing this over and over again, that the children are okay collateral, that it is somehow necessary to kill the children because Hamas are this ultimate threat that means you've got to kill the children. If your mindset is that you have to kill these children, you are a terrorist. Like, that is a terrorist mindset. I don't want to hear anybody saying, oh, you've got to kill children. Anybody who ever says that, I don't care what group they're from or anything. Anyone who says, oh, those children are collateral damage, no. What has happened to you? What on earth is wrong with you to even say such a thing? I mean, it doesn't make sense anyway, because also, like, you don't need children to spot a tank, do you? Like, a tank is massive. I'm pretty sure they don't need 3 children on bikes to find where the tank is, right? Especially when the tank's shooting into the air. I'm pretty sure it's obvious where they are. It doesn't add up. And I can only come to the conclusion that people are willfully going along with it because they don't care about Palestinian lives, and because they feel that those children are terrorists, right? They feel that those children are dangerous. They're not children anymore to them. And how wicked to claim that the reason that you're dying as a victim is because you spared children, while your campaign is killing so many children. So many children. My heart is broken by it. It feels wrong to say I can't handle. Of course I can handle it. I'm in a safe place. But my emotional state, I can't get past it. I cannot get past it. I want to show you another thing on Twitter. And I'm thinking the way I'm going to do this as we go forward is make them shorter, show you some examples of propaganda on Twitter, and go through it. Maybe that might be a way I can help. I'm trying to think how I can help. I don't know what I can do other than make videos. I'm trying. Okay, this is a cartoon that was shared, and it's a racist cartoon, basically. And I'll put it on the screen. I was going to explain what's on it, but okay, at the top, 7th of October, and then it's got 2 Muslim fighters rejoicing as missiles fly. And then it says November the 11th, the victim card, ceasefire. Now, something that's very notable on this, which is just so... The evil has gone so far at this point that even this meme is... The victim at the bottom is a sobbing mother holding her dead baby. She's not the one rejoicing at the top, is she? This is so telling. Like, you only make something like this and imagine it's going to be some sort of gotcha if you think other people are like you and are going to look at it and be like, ha ha ha, that woman is holding her dead child. She's not in the top image even. But it's like association by race, right? It's that every person in Palestine is to suffer now because of Hamas, right? And I say because of Hamas. It is Israel doing it. What I mean is they say they're going in for Hamas. I believe it's a land grab. I believe it is ethnic cleansing. It's been going on for a really, really long time. But to the people that do say it, right, and they say, oh, it's because of Hamas, Israel is choosing to kill so many people, right? And there's no trial, right? They just expect you to say, oh, it's all right, you know, a whole street was obliterated and children are dead, but that's okay because they were probably connected to Hamas. It's probably worth it because they got a tunnel. No, it's not worth it. Even if Hamas had, and they come up with the most, oh, they've got like a massive underground city under there. Even if that was the case, that's ridiculous. Even if that was the case, that's not going to make me go, oh, okay then, kill all the children, kill all the people above it. There's no other way. Clearly, you have to slaughter all the people just because they're there. The way they see Palestinian lives, like, we wouldn't accept it here. It's racism. Like, imagine, I've tried to talk to people about this and they go completely blank. But, like, imagine, for example, you live on a street, like a normal street in wherever country you're at, and there is a terrible serial killer operating in that street, right? And they discover that someone has done something awful, like atrocious, right? And the authorities decide we have to get those people. And rather than doing this through, you know, the judicial channels, they decide they're going to bomb your street. So they might have the courtesy to say, look, we're going to bomb it, you might want to go, and then bomb the place you then go to, but that's another story. But that is not proportionate, and we don't accept that for us. We would not accept that, because we would say, wait a minute, an innocent person is an innocent person, and people have a right in a court of law to have their rights to say, wait, I'm innocent and not worthy of punishment, right? I've been told all my life, oh, that's the British way, that's the British way. Where is it when it's applied to people in other countries? It's like, don't we all have the same value? Don't we all have that right? Don't all innocent people, like, have the right to live in peace and not to be persecuted? To call it victim card. Meanwhile, the actual cartoon has a woman who literally is holding her dead baby. And being able to laugh at that, right? Like, oh, no, they're playing victim. Oh, look, they're playing victim. I can't... The levels of inhumanity are so horrific. And I understand now how the Holocaust happened. I understand it. I wish I didn't understand it. I can't like, the people around you are just they don't care. They just don't care. Like, they're posting all sorts of things, and there's nothing wrong with you know, posting joyfully and enjoying life, of course, but like, nothing. And this genocide is happening, and it's partly our fault, like our history in the region in Britain. But aside from that, at the very start of this, if we and France and the US hadn't backed Netanyahu right to the hilt and just said, you know, whatever you have to do, we're with you, this would not be happening. It wouldn't be happening. And I'm so fed up of people who, they call people who raise the flag or raise the alarm at the start, and they say, oh, you're being over dramatic, like you're just being woke, you're being this, you're being that, and they ignore it. And then months later, when it actually comes to pass, everyone's like, oh, how could we possibly have known this would happen? Oh, Israel's going a bit too far, isn't it? And it's like, I don't know. I don't even know how to say this in a way that isn't upsetting. But, you know, all these videos that the Israeli soldiers are taking and rejoicing in people's houses they've stolen, getting into children's beds, and children are burning alive. Like, I hate to even say it, but that's the reality. It's not just, people see a bomb going off, right, in a Middle Eastern country, and they just think, oh, that's how it is. No, that's a home. That's people. That's people that live there. Like, that's someone's livelihood, and that's people's lives, and that's people's bodies, like, changed forever. Like, people are going to be living so differently. Like, they're now refugees. They've got nothing to their name. Their houses are gone, and their limbs are missing, and they'll be missing family members, and the psychological impact of this, and not just the pain, but the fact that the rest of the world is allowing it to keep happening, is unimaginable to us. Like, if it's so awful for us to even watch it, how are they even remaining sane? It's a level of injustice that I've never seen before, and in some ways that's naive, because I haven't seen anything. I know there's been awful injustices in the world, but this is the first one I feel like I've seen. I've really, like, I did a lot of research into it, and I see it, and I follow a lot of people from there, and I've read up on it, and because of social media, we're watching it. This is the first time I've ever really watched that happen. And just everything I thought, like, 2023 has changed me in so many ways, but everything I thought about our leaders and our principles, and I know I've always said, you know, it's hypocritical anyway. Like, we are hypocrites, of course we are. And every country will try and, like, you know, sell itself and be like, oh, we're the heroes in our story. But it's even worse than I thought, because sometimes I'd say to myself, well, you're being too pessimistic, you know. If it actually came to a huge situation like this, I'm sure people would do the right thing, even people that aren't very nice people. And it's worse than that, because it's people you thought were just, like, people who would call themselves moderates are arguing basically for the pros and cons of killing children. There's nothing moderate about that, and yet you're called a radical for calling the ethnic cleansing out for what it is. You're called a radical for saying that you don't want any innocent person to die. It doesn't matter what race, what ethnicity, or where they live in the world. They don't deserve to die. People deserve their human rights. People do not deserve to be oppressed, right? There is a better way. And to say that makes you a radical, and I do fear, and it feels like a small thing to fear considering what the Palestinians are going through, but the way these things are running here in this country and in the US and in other countries, Germany, France, I fear so much that the left is already, and people, not just people on the left, I have, you know, there's people across the spectrum who've been so good on this and so brave and spoken rightly, and I have a lot of respect for them. But my fear is that it's going to be made even more difficult for those people to be able to speak. Like, everything has shifted so much, and it's been happening for years, but this is just absolutely, like, this is the whole, all of it's come together for this. The police bill, criminalising protesters, the extreme Islamophobia, right? The fear of people in the Middle East, the smearing of the left, like, weaponisation of anti-Semitism. That's not me saying there isn't anti-Semitism, but it's me saying that there are people who, as we can see, are basically advocating for war crime and really wicked things to happen, and then when you, like, no, Israel doesn't have a right to do that, then they'll say it's anti-Semitism. I'm not saying there isn't anti-Semitism, there is anti-Semitism. That weaponization by people who basically deny the Palestinians their human rights. And it's all come to this point that it feels, I didn't think that I'm going to be 30 next year, in a few months, this year, in a few months. And I didn't think at this point, you think history's going to keep going forward, right? You think it's going to be like, things are going to get better. I did not think that now, at this point in time, we'd be arguing for the right of children to not be bombed. And that's a bare minimum. They were already being held in a massive open-air prison, and they didn't have the same rights. Treated abominably, already refugees. And now we're arguing, please don't kill them, please don't starve them, please don't let them die, please let them have medical aid. Like, to beg other humans for that, like to try and beg for a crumb of humanity from people, is just people walking around calling themselves moderates, and they can look at a Palestinian child and just turn off the empathy, right? And be like, oh, well, it's easier for them, right? Because it doesn't feel bad. There's no nuance. They just sit there and go, well, it's Hamas's fault. And it's like, no. These children are being killed by somebody. And I think the same about, Hamas killing innocent people. Innocent people are not collateral damage, like in any sense, right? Especially not children. There's never an excuse or a justification. And if we think about that story that came out really early on about the 40 beheaded babies, which thank God we believe isn't the case. That's not me saying Hamas didn't commit atrocities. It sounds like they did. Like, it sounds really scary. It sounds awful, right? I'm not undermining that. But all that outrage, which is justified, because if you actually, someone's beheading babies, like 40 babies, of course, you're a human being, you're going to be like, no, babies are innocent, what are you doing? That's evil, that's wicked behaviour. And that turned out, thank God, not to be the case, even though even President Biden was saying that was the case. And now we are openly seeing, like, the evidence of it ourselves, like the actual footage of children being killed and slaughtered, newborn babies. Every single day I see pictures of children and newborn babies dead at 2 weeks old, or dead at this week's old, or died in their parents' arms or something. We're actually seeing the slaughter of loads of children, but those people now don't care. So were they just... It was all conditional, like it didn't apply to everyone. It was hypocrisy. If you have principles, don't you have to apply them across the board? And that's racism, right? It's racism and it's narcissism. It's a refusal to accept any wrongdoing, right? It's pure cowardice and it's doubling down. People are still living in a fairy tale, the reasonable people, that means in their mind somehow they can justify their opinions, like, oh yeah, all the kids are dying, but, they deserved it, essentially, because they lived in the same place. And then they say, oh, but they're human shields. Well, don't kill them then. That makes them victims. If you truly believe that, then they are also victims. Don't kill them. Or, it has to be done. It's just an unfortunate consequence. No. Can you imagine if thousands of children were killed here, right? And anywhere in the world, it would be a complete tragedy and a travesty, right? It would be something that would be unacceptable. And any person who sits there and tells me that children are collateral in any situation, I don't care, like any situation at all, that's terrorism. That is punishing an innocent for effect, right? That is terrorizing an innocent being. And that's not even to start on the innocent adults. But again, like, children. I love kids. They have so much potential and they have so much kindness in them, right? And they have so much trust in the adults around them. And the main priority as human beings, surely, is to keep the kids safe, right? Keep the children safe. Is that not just an instinct in people's minds, right? If you saw someone with a gun going into, trying to kill kids or something, I hope that the adults would try and stop it, or try and get in the way, or try and protect them. Like, isn't that the instinct? Is it not there for some people? Is it only there for children they deem acceptable? Because that the very thing that they keep accusing people who are advocating for Palestine of are the people who are okay for it to happen to Palestinian children. Like, I don't know anybody, truly, like, who I've spoken to who advocates for Palestine, who would want a single thing to happen to any Israeli child. No child in the world is like, of course not. Of course not. And it was just projection all along. But that's what it is in 2024. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, I don't know how to use this channel better. I can't abide, like, it's so evil to witness something so evil, but to be unable to stop it. And to have to persuade other people that it's an evil that's happening when the evil is right there. Things that, when it was alleged they were things that, you know, oh, when Hamas has done it, everyone's condemning it. And then when Israel does the same and worse, they're like, it's justified. What are you talking about? It's never justified. Killing innocent people is never justified. It's just not. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. I'll make a proper video, like, soon, but I don't know what to do with this situation, and I don't know. Thank you so much for watching. Medical Aid for Palestinians is in the description box. Oxfam Gaza Appeal is in the description box. Please do what you can. I know there's marches, there's fundraising, there's all these different things. Like, just try and do whatever you can, and I don't know, just, I guess, keep trying to talk to people. You know, some people say, you know, it's useless, you won't persuade anyone, but I don't know, it's all we can do, really, isn't it? I try and engage. And sometimes I get really frustrated and my temper gets the better of me, but other times, like, I really try, and then I sit there and think, wow, you're talking to another human being and they're arguing for why it's actually okay to kill children, and you're having this conversation with them. You're both having this conversation. I don't understand it. I just keep praying. I just have to try and have faith in God. Like, I don't know what else to do. Thank you so much for watching. I love you, and I'll see you soon. Bye.